Oh, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today is a good day. It is your supreme leader, the Fat Asian, and today, ladies and gents, we're gonna talk about it. It's all but confirmed. The Chinese Super League is coming to FIFA 19. Now, obviously, for the people who are uninitiated, I, of course, am of Chinese descent. I'm Chinese American, and I'm super excited. I'm super excited to see the Chinese Super League in FIFA. I've been wanting it for years now, ever since, some people have been saying that the Chinese Super League has been poaching a lot of the big name players away from a lot of the top tier European clubs. There's been a little bit of sourness amongst the community. I think that's primarily because a lot of the FIFA player base feel like the Chinese Super League is stealing away these players so they can no longer use them in FIFA. Well, with the Chinese Super League being inducted into FIFA 19, that won't be an issue anymore. And before I get too ahead of myself, you might be asking, what do you mean? There wasn't any official announcement or anything. How can you say that the Chinese Super League is going to be in FIFA 19? Well, let me tell you, two big things have happened that pretty much all but confirm that it's going to be in FIFA 19. And the first off happened actually a couple of months ago. It was around the same time that they announced that they were getting the Champions League license back. A little story that flew underneath the radar was that actually 4 Chinese Super League teams were added into the Asian version of FIFA. It's called FIFA Online. And the reason why these teams were added is because there's a huge Chinese player base that plays FIFA Online. This is a pretty huge billboard saying that, hey, we're FIFA, we're EA, we got the license to at least 4 teams from the Chinese Super League. It was most likely going to happen that they were going to bring them into FIFA 19. Just on that alone. But this just happened a couple of days ago, and there was a team from EA who flew out apparently to China to go ahead and take pictures from a lot of the prominent Chinese Super League players. You can see right here. Now, what I do want to stress is it's not 100% confirmed. EA haven't said anything about this. This is rumors, but if it is to be believed, this is a picture of the EA team taking a picture of Hulk. And this is most likely so that they can add, that kind of headshot picture in on either his FUT card or in career mode. And if this is believed to be true, if you combine that with the fact there are already 4 Chinese Super League teams in the Asian version of FIFA Online, then I think it's a very, very highly likely chance that we're going to get the Chinese Super League in FIFA 19. I'm very, very excited. This is making all of my nips hard for FIFA and my penis. But guys, in this video, I'm going to break down what the Chinese Super League coming to FIFA 19 would potentially look like, what it would mean for both FUT and for Champions League. Let's go ahead, let's begin. So first off, how did this go down? Why is this happening? Well, it makes a lot of sense for both sides. China has made it no secret that they want to seem to be a power in world football in the next decade or so, and bringing in the world's most prominent football video game, it's a win-win on both sides. China gets worldwide exposure, and FIFA gets back a lot of the big names that, they didn't have the license to every time they would fly off to China. So a lot of the fan favorites, they're coming back, baby. So the Hulks, the Oscars, the Patos, all of those guys are going to be back in both FIFA Ultimate Team as well as Career Mode. And this also clears up, a little bit of difficulty if an older legendary player were to fuck off to China. Maybe like Ronaldo goes to China in his old age, or Messi even, which looks more and more likely with the amount of money that China is pumping into transfers. But that's another story. This would make it so that they aren't out of FIFA and the fans stay happy. And for FIFA, adding the Chinese Super League makes their video game look a lot more appealing to 1.4 billion people living in the world right now. So, how do you say FIFA points in Chinese? FIFA points, ah. That's how you say things in Cantonese. It's like Spanish, you add an O to everything. In Cantonese, you just add ah to the end of it. FIFA points, ah. And first off, let me talk about FUT, because this is amazing for FUT, and there are multiple reasons for that. First off, it offers you a brand new league to be going ahead and building teams around. A lot of great players have gone to the Chinese Super League. Fan favorites, as I mentioned before, like Alexander Pato, Hulk, Oscar, Ramirez was there. This will allow them to bring all of their FUT cards back. I remember, Ramirez and Hulk were some of my favorite players to use. And now I can imagine like a lot of fun hybrid teams that you could build, like hybrid Brazilian teams between the Chinese Super League and other Brazilian players, as well as like very unique SBCs. And maybe finally they could have like a true Chinese New Year event for FUT, you know, as opposed to just giving us special packs with like, hey, it's the year of the dog, here you go. Like, at least St. Patty's Day, you get cool, like, Irish players. Maybe we get some, you know, like, cool Chinese players, or probably more likely, like, cool Chinese League player cards. And I also think a huge thing that a lot of people will be overlooking, because it doesn't really affect the gameplay all that much, but the Chinese Super League has some of the sickest kits out there, bro. They're really dope. And I'm guessing you're going to see a lot of them rocked online in FUT. But in my approximation, I think that adding the Chinese Super League is mostly going to be helping the prospects of career mode. And this is a big if, because we don't know if we're going to get the actual Chinese Super League. Maybe a couple of the teams are added into like rest of the world and that kind of stuff, and that would be pretty disappointing. But if we were able to get all of the Chinese Super League, I would be ecstatic, because it would be super fun to actually play in the Chinese Super League, to play with a team that probably the talent base is relatively low, but your budget is out of this world. Like, it would be the equivalent if you had Nottingham Forest, but you had the budget of Man City. Like, just a blank slate that you could buy like some of the best players in the world, or the best like young players in the world, and build them up and build a super team that way. I think it would be absolutely dope. Now, the downside to that is, you know, I don't think the Chinese Super League is going to be super competitive in that aspect, but if you're not a super stickler for realism, I think it could be a really fun challenge if you take one of those Chinese super teams and then you go ahead and you put them into maybe like a lower division, or even like the Premier League or one of the European divisions, and that way you can start building up like this low tier team, but you got a huge budget, and you can just start going ahead and bringing in stuff and essentially have your own expansion team powered by Chinese money. But it will be interesting to see just how big of a budget EA will give these Chinese teams. Will they give them like a Man City size budget? Will they give them more of like an Arsenal size budget? And I make no illusions about this. I don't think that many, I guess, non-Asian players will be playing in the Chinese Super League. I think the irony that's going to happen is, I think a lot of Europeans, as I said before, were really kind of soured at the prospect of when kind of like big name players started moving over to China, or they were sniping away kind of like bright young talents like Alex Teixeira away from like Liverpool and that kind of stuff. But I think you kind of got to empathize. Every league has to start somewhere. They got to establish themselves. And if we've seen anything from the likes of Chelsea to Man City, the quickest way to establish yourself is sadly through money and purchasing the best players in the world, you know. And while some people might decry the, you know, the modern money in football, you can't argue with the results that it does lead to validity in world football rather quickly. At least it does more than being poor. And I think that having the Chinese Super League in FIFA will help strip away kind of the alien stigma behind the league. It was kind of out of FIFA, out of mind, if you will. But now that these players will actually stay in the game, I think that that stigma will soften, and I think that's a good thing. You know, we're not going to see the Chinese Super League as this kind of like foreign oriental land. But I think the biggest thing that people are going to really love about the Chinese Super League teams being added into FIFA is when one of these teams comes a knocking for your talent. Because I'm thinking that the majority of people who are going to be playing career mode are going to be playing as most likely one of their favorite European teams. And I feel like a lot of your guys' tone on the Chinese Super League is going to change when all of a sudden Guangzhou Evergrande comes in and offers like 100 million for Marion Fellaini. I feel like a lot of you guys will be like, all right, you know what? I like the Chinese. I will take your 100 million. Thank you very much, China. Adoje sai. Like, you gotta realize that when Shanghai FC shows up in your email box, you have just hit the proverbial lottery. You have hit the jackpot, good sir, in career mode. And especially if you're playing as like a smaller team and they come calling for like your star player, or just like one of them who's been bagging in the goals this whole entire season, you know, something crazy like 2, maybe 3 times his value, the level of hype that you are gonna feel in your balls. You're gonna be able to remake your whole entire team because some Chinese team came in and bought one of your bright young players. And that level of randomness and the ability to bring hype is something that is desperately needed in this game mode. We've been starved of real advancement for like a decade now, so You know, I'll take it. And now you no longer have to wait for that offer from Man City, from Real Madrid in order to get the really big payload. Instead, you can go ahead, offload Neymar for 300 million to Guangzhou Evergrande, and then you can buy a completely new Real Madrid caliber team. And there's also a level of strategy to selling to the Chinese teams. I believe it was the Chinese philosopher Sun Tzu who wrote The Art of War, who said that if one sells Neymar for 300 million to Guangzhou Evergrande, one does not need to face Neymar in the newly licensed Champions League. A win-win. All in all, if they do end up adding the Chinese Super League, which I desperately hope they do, I think it's going to be a great thing. Along with, you know, the additions of adding the Champions League licensing back into the game, all of it's really going to help with the immersion, and especially the Chinese Super League is going to help with the immersion of the game being truly worldwide. But I do fear and hope that these new licenses aren't the only improvements that we see in FIFA 19, but I'd be lying if I wasn't amped over the news. And as a fat Asian, you know what I'm going to do at the start of FIFA 19 if this is actually a thing. Oh, you best believe I will be launching FIFA 19 with a China Ruins Career Mode series. And I'm hoping, I am praying that there's at least like a few young promising Chinese prospects that I can use in the game. But either way, it's going to be chaotically fun. Maybe I'll do the thing where I recommended earlier, where I take the Chinese League team, you know, Guangzhou Evergrande, and then I put them into the Premier League or something silly like that and just fuck everything up. So if you want to see that series and you aren't subscribed already, goddamn subscribe, hit the bell with your nipples, and leave a comment down below. All the interaction really helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Tell me about what was your most heartbreaking story of a player that left for China that really kind of hurt you. Because now they're probably coming back to you, baby. But yeah, that's it for me, be honest. If you want to check out other FIFA content, well, FIFA Chinese content, go ahead and click over here, ding, and this is my playthrough with China on Legendary in the World Cup mode. It was interesting. And if you want to go ahead and check out my China Ruins Everything career mode that I did in FIFA 17, it'll give you a little preview of what's going to be happening at the start of FIFA 19. Go ahead and click over here, dig the news. But yeah, that's it for me, be honest. Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day. Remember to stay yourself, stay humble, and stay thick.